Hey, what's going on, guys? So finally got everything back from my zinc coater. Everything is prepped, ready to go. So I've already done one set for my buddy JT up in Northern California. Still have to do the Tomei coating, but they'll be part of this video as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started on how to reassemble these individual throttle bodies without, you know, having to send them in to someone. Parts are pretty easy. I'm gonna get some stuff together to offer them up to the public for a reasonable price, which will include new bearings, new seals, plastics. I think I'll continue to get those from IEE over in New Zealand, because they can actually give me a decent amount for a good price, but include all hardware and everything else, so you can be on the lookout for that in the future. But let's get to it. All right, so I already have one assembled. Obviously, two of these individual throttle bodies will be exactly the same. That's going to be your second and third pair on the intake pendulum. Obviously, the first one's got that vacuum hose in it, and that's going to be one that's opposite to these. So we'll go ahead and get started with the center one, since I already have the third one done. Biggest thing that you're going to want to do with this, I think, as it relates to cooking, you want to make sure you have a clean prep area, and then have everything set up, ready to go. So one thing with these bearings, one side will generally slide a bearing on very easily. That's usually the last one that I do. You do the harder one first. So with that, easiest thing to do is get yourself a 3/4 inch socket, deep socket, and I wrap it with Testa tape. It's the same stuff that you would get if you're gonna redo wiring looms. You can buy like a 6-8 pack off Amazon and use it, but this way you don't mar up any of the surfaces. Obviously, it'll be gentle on the bearing, but when you go to hammer the metal seal back in, if you want it to remain with that freshly zinced surface, you'll want to make sure that you're protecting it. So 3/4 inch marries up perfect to it, allows the socket to slide in to the recess as well. So with that, we'll go ahead and knock out this first one. I usually just put it on the vise, offset it a little bit so it can stand there by itself. Just place it in there. Sometimes it'll just slide right in. In this case, not so much. And then you're just gonna tap it in there until it starts going down. And it's got a seat in there that will allow it to not move down any further. So using this, you're not going to damage anything on that seal. Notice I'm using this hammer, you know, kind of like a dead blow to put that in there, because again, I don't want to have to damage these new bearings. So with that, it's in there. I always just check it real quick. The centerpiece should move freely, which it does. Okay, after that, I'm gonna go ahead and hammer in the seal, the metal seal. Again, just using that, tapping it in. This will hammer in just below the lip of the aluminum. Okay, test it again. Moves freely, no issues. Okay, this next part, okay, you're gonna take, check which side the bearing goes on easier. So for this one slides on fairly easy. So I'm gonna use this one, and I'm going to use the harder end that it is for that bearing to slide on, and put it in the empty side, slide it all the way in, and then just right here on the corner, actually probably just easier to do it like this. Okay, Throw it in like that. Get a brass punch so you don't mess up the shaft. I'm just gonna hammer it, okay? So the biggest thing when we're reassembling these is you're gonna have to keep flipping this back and forth. So you can see how this started getting pushed back out again. It's just something that you're gonna have to do. If you have a shop press, you can do it, but if you're doing it, you know, just in a normal home garage with a vise and a work table, this method will work. Take a little bit longer, but it's not that big of a deal. So again, what I'll do, put that in there, 3/4 inch socket, just hit it with that, just to drive it in real quick. No issues. Okay, go back, do this again, and just keep hammering it in there until we get it flush. So, as you can see, this lip right here, that's where everything's going to stop. That's barely exposed on this side, and then same thing on that side. That's going to be your indicator that it's in there. So with that, you can go ahead and take this other bearing. You can likely just wiggle it in there. Okay, dropped in, easy. Takes the metal seat. Same thing. Pressed in. Give this one more tap. Okay. So those are in. I usually go ahead and put in the 2 new rotary seals. You can get these from IEE if you want, or you can just order them offline. If you get them from IEE, you can get them all together. But I mean, this is a 10-18-4 rotary lip seal. So all you're gonna do with this, you're just gonna put a little bit of assembly lube on this, okay, just on one, and then you can take the other one, and then you're just going to move it around to lubricate the outsides of these, because what you don't want to do is to nick these as you're pressing them in. And you're just going to use, put my hands off, you're just going to use a 13mm socket. So put it up here, balancing, and sometimes you can just press them in with your fingers. Okay, other times you're just gonna have to tap these in ever so gently, right? Just to slide it in. Flip it over, do the same thing for the opposite side. Flip it in. Alright, those are in. Alright, you should have some resistance. Obviously, this is an indicator of one, like the seal providing pressure against the shaft. Okay, and this next part will be fitting of the valves into here. Okay, so with that, I always make sure that I have this side facing up, and then what you're going to want to do, rotate it so that the notched out area is going to be facing down. Okay, because when you do this, you're going to have it so it's opening a certain direction. Okay, pay close attention again, because on these butterfly valves, right? There are 2 dots on these, and that'll be an indicator of which direction to put these. Okay, so when you lay it flat and rotate it, these should be facing up. Okay, so slide it in there. This is where the fitting comes in, because these are loose. So you're gonna have to line up the dots in order to get it shut all the way. Okay, lined up a little bit more. You just want to move it around until it gets lined up. So I always like to make sure that 2 dots, right? So as you slide them in, like, they're gonna get marred up a little bit, right? Because when they re-zinc it and everything, there might be some residual material in there. But there are right above the back end of the screw, right? So you'll put the screws in from this side. Screw hole, and then you'll have a dot there. The biggest thing, you want to make sure that this is going to be done one at a time, and then once you have one in, you're going to want to make sure that you're putting it in. Alright, I just use a little dab of blue Loctite just to make sure it stays in there, doesn't back out over time. 1 screw. Two screw. Okay, so when you flip it over, obviously you'll have the 4 holes. If you do it from this side, you're going to want to insert it down so the holes, or not the holes, but the pinholes right there. Let's see if you can see them better. Above each of those, you're going to want to make sure that when you're putting it in, you're grabbing it and putting it in this way. Right, so as you put it in, you're gonna slide it in, wiggle it in just a little bit, try to get it in there, and then you're gonna have to adjust it with your fingers as you go, but it should line up. Again, you'll have each of those indents above the screw holes. Right, flip it over, same thing, a little bit of blue Loctite, just a little bit, don't need a lot. Screw them down nice and tight. All right, so do that one last time. Okay, so should open, close freely. Okay. When you hold this up to the light, right, you will see light coming through, and that's where that Tomei throttle coat will come into play. But we'll get to that. One thing that I did fail to mention is that when you re-zinc stuff, obviously it's going to add a layer of material. So what you're going to want to do with a Dremel, just ever so slightly, you're just going to go around the insides of these and just on the outsides, not the threads of the bars. So that way you can slide them on easily, right? So whenever you do this, like this one, you're gonna rock it forward, back and forth a little bit, and it'll come all the way down, and it'll sit right on top of that lip, right? So if I pull this back off, or if I just show you on this side, there's that ledge right there. So each side will go all the way down and press up against that. For this side, you're just going to take a lock washer and then one of these thin nuts, screw it on there. You don't need to do it tight right now. We'll do final tightening down after we assemble everything. This next part, spring guide, spring, second spring guide, and then this plate. Orientation, right? So this edge will line up on here, so it's going to be opposite of the bar that's holding the spring. And you're just going to press it down. If it's a little tight, you can use like a little hobby hammer like I have, and you can do that. Then you're going to take a pick. Actually, before I do that, put your lock washer and your washer on. Screw it down. And then for this piece, you're not going to torque it down quite yet. Okay, nice and tight. Take the spring, pull it all the way around until it fits in there, just like that. Okay, so you should be able to take the throttle linkage piece, and it will open and close by itself, no problem. So again, we'll torque this down once we get everything assembled. IEE sells a torque block that will fit in those end plates for the different left and right one, and you'll be able to torque them down to spec. Alright, so went ahead and knocked out this other one, had to let the battery charge, but this is, again, is the front one. Nothing too crazy. Again, we'll torque this down once everything's said and done. But one of the bigger things that you're gonna have to remember with the front one is that you do have the vacuum port. So there is a small hole in here. So whenever we do get ready to do the throttle coding, I want to make sure that you can still get a reading out of this port. So just something to take into consideration. So with this next part, what you're going to want to do, take the shaft and start installing everything front to back as it needs to go. All right, so whenever we get ready to do this, you can just slide everything on in here because we'll have to pin it into place. The only thing I don't like about this portion of the process is that you do have to slide everything from one direction most of the time. But so again, this one's not too bad. You could just do that and get a long hammer. You can just hammer everything down. Again, like I said, with the zinc coating, tolerances are going to be pretty tight. Next one to go on will be the throttle cable assembly. So this one, so this is the keyed area for the throttle position sensor. This throttle body linkage portion, you're gonna want facing to the left as you're looking at it. And then you're going to want to make sure that this area where the cable hooks into is facing you as well. You'll slide it down. When you put this one on, you will put it so that this hook is facing to the left. Put one plastic backing on. You'll put the round hooked area onto here. Second piece. And then you're just going to push everything down to one side so you can slide it in. Which is the easiest way to do it. So you bring it in, just like we did before. You'll have to maneuver some of this. I did another one earlier today that was able to get it all in there relatively easily without having to do too much adjustments. But okay. Then you'll have it assembled. Okay, so easiest way to do this is to start on the left hand side. Okay, move everything back up to the holes for where the pins get inserted. Okay, this one will get moved up. So what I usually like to do, I like to do this middle one first, because for me it is the most annoying one. But once you actually get it started and put in there, it's pretty easy. And this will kind of be your piece that holds everything together. So again, these are new roll pins. Want to use a brass punch once you get it started. It's just easier to get it put in. Okay, so that one's all the way in. So whenever we get this said and done, this will be the piece that will align everything to the correct spot. Right, so you'll have that there. You'll have this one right here to the front, and then we'll do this one last because you have to make sure that the spring is in the correct orientation. Okay, which currently is not, but we'll get to that point. Okay, so we'll do this next one. Another roll pin. Just get it started enough where you can align everything, and then you can just tap it in. That's done. Okay, and for this last piece, okay, so you're going to want to make sure that the spring is aligned. I had it backwards there for a second. Okay, all you're going to do is tap that back in, press punch, like that. Okay, so with that, obviously we don't have the bearing and stuff in yet, but with having all these put in, it's going to allow us to get the orientation and everything right. So whenever we go to do this bearing, just because we're going to be pressing on it, you're going to want to make sure that this is on, as you're looking at it, on the left hand side. That way it doesn't get stuck there and then you end up hammering it, and then you end up bending it by accident. All right, so with this, just like the ITBs, put it in there, get your 3/4 inch socket. Can do is flip it over. Okay. Put this one on. And this will be the cut area facing inward, so the flatter area is facing outboard. This push this out, because again, as you do that, it's going to create tension. Okay, so now that we've fixed everything, so again, recommend having multiple of these roll pins. That way you can just replace them if you need to. But again, what you're going to want is that piece, right, that end piece, hammered in there enough, right? And just like throttle bodies, you're going to have to go back and forth couple times to get the fitment to where it needs to be. So once that's all lined up, you're going to want to be facing same as this one over here, same angle. Okay, so it should always be facing towards you. Okay. Got one lock washer and nut. Okay. So as the throttle pulls, this should operate freely. Okay, so pretty simple. Just gotta take your time, not be afraid to make, some mistakes. Biggest thing is just making sure that the spring orientation is right. That way you get the right tension going in the right direction. So, be doing some other stuff in the future. If you're interested in this stuff, let me know. We'll be doing more rebuilds in the future. One will be a power steering rack. So that way we can get those back into circulation for the US GTR guys. Other than that, that's it. Next up we'll be doing the Tomei throttle coupe. All right, so for this, the Tomei throttle coat, again, you can keep this stuff for probably about a year as long as you keep it sealed up and in a climate controlled place. So if it's in your garage in a dark, cool place, you should be good. If not, it'll probably get hard. But all you're gonna do, so you can use this brush if you want. I've found that just using a Q-tip works just as good. Dip it in there, dab it a little bit, and all you're gonna do is just run around the outside of the throttle plate a couple times. You're gonna let it dry, and again, you're gonna hold this up to the light and see what it looks like. And again, as you do this, like when it dries, it'll get darker. Yep. So again, all you're gonna do, dip it in there, dab it off. This is middle one is the throttle body for the #1 position, so it'll have that vacuum line right there. But as you do this, you're just gonna go down, you're gonna let each coat dry for a couple minutes till it gets pretty dark. I do both sides. Some people say you only need to do one side. I just, again, with RBs and everything, they tend to have vacuum issues. So any fighting chance we can give them, I think we should. All right, so keep doing this, a couple iterations. Okay, probably 2 coats usually is where I find it to be enough on each side. And after each coat, you're gonna hold it up to the light and see what, if any light you're able to see. Because if you can see light, that's an indicator that air is getting through. Okay, doing coat number 2. And again, you're gonna want to make sure that you get it down into the cracks and not just on the plates. You gotta get the cracks. And then I go up and over the bars as well, because that's where vacuum leaks will come as well. And then if this gets messy or you drop it somewhere on the throttle body, real easy to clean up just with some brake parts cleaner. We'll take this stuff right off, but so for like that area right there, all right, little drip. I'll just get that here in a little bit after I get done doing this, these ITBs. Clean them up. Not that anyone will see them once they're installed, but I like them to look neat, especially if it's for like a buddy. All right, so these are TJs, my buddies. So I'm gonna make sure, or JT, sorry, I don't like that TJ Hunt maybe one day he'll buy something for me. But for these, I know he pays attention to detail, so I'll make sure that these are put together very well. Right. Let's keep doing these.